This is Hannibal here from HannibalTV.com, and I also do interviews for SWE Fury. Speaking of SWE Fury, my guest today is Alex the Pug Porteau, former WWE superstar, who is going to be appearing for SWE Fury next Saturday night in Carthage, Texas. How are you today, sir?
Good. Hannibal, what's going on your way, brother? Glad to hear from you.
What have you been up to since WWE?
Oh, well, raising a family and just living in Orlando. We created Pro Wrestling 2.0 Training Center around 5 years ago now here in Orlando, just a few miles from the Performance Center. So we pumped a few students out of there, and we're still going and running monthly shows and just trying to get back to the business. That's all.
Are you going to get in the ring next Saturday night in Carthage, or is this going to be just an autograph and meet and greet appearance for you?
Well, you never know. SWE Fury seems to have quite a few surprises, so you never know what'll happen there.
There's a fan on here that would like to know your thoughts on WWE giving you the Steiner Brothers music when they brought you in.
Well, to be honest with you, it really didn't bother me. I mean, it would have been a lot nicer to probably have something on my own. But at the same time, I looked at it as a blessing, so to speak, because that was something that was already over and the Steiners were over. So they passed it along to me, and I just took it from there.
As far as your WWE run, how did that go for you getting recruited into WWE? I heard Jim Cornette may have had something to do with it.
Well, they needed some guys that knew how to work, that could work with their guys up there, and they needed some notable names and guys that could work to go on the road with them. They wanted to know who they had on the roster the whole time. They didn't want to just pick out 4 or 5 different locals to come in and do TV anymore. They wanted to bring in their own 4 or 5 and put them on the roster, and that's what they did. So that was unfortunately and fortunately. I mean, WWE was the best production I ever worked for. Was it the best spot? No, not necessarily, but you know what? I'll take it. I was very blessed to be there.
You worked with Bob Holly. How was he to get along with?
Bob and I got along well, business-wise. Bob was very stern, but and could be snug if he needed to be. But we were baby faces, so we never worked with each other. But we did tag together, and Bob was fun. He was a good guy to work with, and a very good worker.
Who actually trained you for professional wrestling?
I was trained by Jim Starr. Jim Starr was one of the original mask interns from the St. Louis territory, managed by Dr. Ken Ramey. And they were real big in the 60s and 70s. So he's very, very old school. He owns a gym in Bossier City, Louisiana, which was just a few miles down from where I grew up. And all the boys would come in there from Mid-South and train in his club there, which was just, that was a big place for Mid-South territory, Shreveport, Louisiana. So I was very fortunate there as well. So Jim, the Hangman Starr, or Jim Starr, one of the mask interns. That's who it was.
And then from there, where did you compete in your career?
I then started in world class. My first TV match ever was with Cowboy Tony Falk, and that was in 1988 in Dallas Sportatorium.
What was that territory like at that time? That seemed to be just after their big run when they were one of the popular territories in the country. They were winding down then, but it was still a pretty good territory.
Yes, good memory. It was a great place to work. Back then there was only a few green guys, and the green guys that were in the business were, so to speak, brought in because they knew they would be one of the better boys later on down the road. So we were around a lot of veterans in those locker rooms, And that was the time to learn how to work, and that's where I learned how to work in a lot of ways. The first year of my career, before heading to Tennessee to be one of the Dirty White Boys.
What was Sankbar Akbar like when you were working around him in Dallas?
Akbar
Yeah.
was fantastic. He's the one that got me the position in Dallas, and he was just a fantastic guy. Great person to be around. Fun, always ribbing, having a good time, telling a fun story, and just a great man.
Were the Von Erichs still competing in the area at that time? I guess Kevin probably would have still been around, and Kerry here and there.
Yes, I actually worked with Kevin and Kerry, and as a matter of fact, I worked with Chris. So
Wow.
yeah, there was a few Von Erichs left back then, and that was a great honor as well. So Kevin was fun to work with, and all of them were. Chris was a little fun, a little different than the other two, but he was still pretty green. But yeah, Von Erichs were fun to work with.
We don't hear much about Chris. What was he like as a personality? Unfortunately, he ended up being a suicide death as well.
I think Chris was brought in too young. I think Chris probably, and I don't know this. Chris probably was one of the guys that maybe didn't want to be a worker, or one of the brothers, so to speak. But it was just put on his plate because he was the last of the Von Erichs. And it's kind of like the Jackson Five. Those guys were made to make concerts, and didn't matter what they thought. That's what they were going to do, and I think that's kind of the way the Von Erichs, the Fritz had those guys.
Jefferson E. White wants to know your memories of working with the great Muda, who recently became the champion of Noah over in Japan.
Muda's a fantastic worker. I worked with him in 1989 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Managed with Gary Hart. Muda was very smooth and didn't call a whole lot. Didn't have to. But Muda was great. I enjoyed working with great Muda.
Jack Jerry wants to know what it was like working in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico was one of the best places I could have ever landed in my career. 1991 and 92, I took a one-way ticket out there, and I worked 3 shows, and I went to the office on Monday and to get my pay, and I thought that I was leaving, and they said, no, we like you. We want you to stay in Migo. So I lived there for 2 years, and that was really, although world class was fantastic and it was great, but we only worked there one night a week. Now, when I got to Puerto Rico, we were doing Wednesday night TV, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we ran house shows throughout the island. So that's how you learn how to work. And when you do that for 5 nights a week for 2 years, different finish every night, and different locker rooms, you tend to get much better much quicker.
Did you ever work against Invader when you were out there?
I did. Yes, I did. I worked with Invader 1 and 3, I believe. Yes.
What was the experience like with Invader 1? Were you at all nervous with his reputation?
Not really, because, I talked to him a few times in the locker room before I worked for him, and he had seen my work, and he really always put me over. He was very, very cordial with me, and I think a lot of that had to do with maybe the way he changed his life after things happened. I don't know what he was like before 1986 in that incident, but I do know how he was with me. He was very cordial, great guy. I went out one time, and this was later on, I think 1998. And as soon as I got there, they flew me in for TV. They dropped the belt on me, and he was the booker at the time. So I always got along with Invader, and never had any unkind words for him or from him.
Did you ever have any pay issues working at WWC like a lot of the boys had, or were you one of the lucky ones?
I did. I got all my money when I was there in 92 or 91 and 92 and 98 when I went back. No, I'm sorry. There was one time that I had the belt and they wanted me to work with a guy out there, and they wanted us to go in for a main event, a cage match. And they had already owed me money for a couple of weeks. And then I saw them advertising the cage match. And I thought, well, if they haven't paid me yet and they're putting me in a cage match, what are the chances of me getting money after this? So, to be honest with you, I left the island with the belt. And I met with a buddy of mine here in Florida. And we ran an angle. And I told Carlos that when I got back to Florida, that I dropped the strap to this kid and I was sending him back up to work for him. And you know what? I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way that went. You can call it what you want to call it, but business is business. Yes, I left the island with the belt, but yes, I did return the belt with another worker. So that's the best I could do at the moment. Unfortunately, there were no hard feelings. I knew that times like that would come, and it does happen out there. But a lot of the boys take it, but some don't.
Ibzan wants to know, why did you leave the WWE in 1996?
Well, our run was over. No one really ever went much further that brought us in, whether it be Freddie Joe Floyd, Tom Brandy, South Sincere, T.L. Hopper, the Goon, which was Bill Irwin, or myself, Flash Funk. We were all kind of brought in together, and we just kind of things filtered out. I think that what inspired them to get Kurt Angle was me. I was really the first amateur wrestler to come in there outside of Bob Backlund. And so that was huge for me. And you know what? I'm not Kurt Angle. I never acted like I was. I'm not a gold medalist. But you know what? They went out and got Kurt, and I think that replaced the Pug. That's my feelings.
Do you speak French at all with your last name? It's a little bit of a French last name.
Absolutely zero.
Interesting. And just to quickly touch on it, since you brought it up, what are your amateur credentials?
I wrestled 4 years in high school before I got into pro wrestling, and that was in Louisiana. And I went right into pro wrestling in my senior year in high school.
As far as your social media, where can people follow you if they want to keep up with what you're up to and what your federation is up to?
You can look up Pro Wrestling 2.0 or ProWrestling20.com. That's our training facility website. We're located at 10749 East Colonial Drive in Orlando. We're all on all the social medias, and I'm on Facebook as well, and Twitter and Instagram.
And how are you getting involved with SWE Fury? Who's the one bringing you into the company? Okay, the owner's hooking you up. So that's going to be next Saturday night in Carthage, Texas. There's going to be a meet and greet in the afternoon, and I understand you're going to be meeting fans and signing autographs and so forth at this meet and greet at Carthage Civic Center.
Yes, looking forward to it. It should be a strong night. I know Texas has gone through a lot this past week. It looks like they're in the 50s now, maybe the 60s. Hopefully all that stuff is melted and we can get out and have some fun in Carthage.
And last question here. A lot of fans have asked this that have been watching this stream. Is there any reason why you never went to ECW after your WWE run?
No. I was just never really, I don't want to say interested, but that wasn't really my style of work. I did when I moved in Florida in 1994, and ECW ran down here quite a few times, and I would go to their shows and say hello to Heyman and RVD. Chris Candido, you guys, and I enjoyed the product, but no, just nothing ever really popped there, and that was okay with me. I mean, I take it or leave it. I mean, ECW was cool, but again, it wasn't my style. I don't think. Could I adapt to it? Probably, but it just never did.
And is there anything you want to say to close this off? Thanks for taking the time to speak with us. And I look forward to seeing you next Saturday night, February 27th in Carthage. I'm going to be covering that event. And fans, if you want to know more information on that, you can go to swefury.com.
Looking forward to it. Texas next week, or actually this week, Saturday night coming up, 27th. I'm not sure what time the meet and greet is. I believe it's 2:00. But it's going to be a strong night. Should be sold out. I hope Terry Funk makes it. I know he's going through a lot out there, and we're praying for Terry. And if not, either way, we're going to have a great turnout, and looking forward to seeing all the wrestling fans in Texas.
Looking forward to seeing you.